Kitco News special coverage of the Future Blockchain Summit is brought to you by Cook Finance, a revolution in DeFi asset management.
We're here in Dubai covering the Future Blockchain Summit, and kicking off our conference is none other than Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist at InTheMoneyStocks.com. Gareth, I told you and the audience 2 weeks ago that the next time I see you would be in person here in Dubai, and here we are. Great to see you, man. Nice meeting you in person. First time.
Yeah, thanks for having me as your first interview today.
Oh, it's our honor. Yeah, it's our honor.
And it's weird not having some sort of screen between us.
I know, it feels weird. Usually I talk to a screen, but now I'm talking to the real guy, and I must say you're more handsome than you usually are on camera. But let's start with Bitcoin, because we are at a crypto conference, and we're going to be talking about your outlook for Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency markets as a whole, and of course, monetary policy. You have a very interesting topic for us. You'll be making a presentation later on at this conference. Bitcoin, I'm just gonna read your tweet from last night, okay? You said, lots of wild bulls continue to go nuts, but ultimately the 65K confirming is the level. That is the end all be all level per past cycles. Be careful, as this hype is based on the Bitcoin futures ETF debuting. So far, 65K not taken out. Let's watch the price action into next week. So, bit of background info for the folks watching right now. You have come on the show before. You've called for 20K Bitcoin. You have said that until Bitcoin confirms its past all-time high of 66K, we could still reach lower levels, 20K for example. It's hitting resistance at 60K, not yet at 65. What's happening right now?
So right now you do have this ETF like craze, right? So we have the futures ETF that's going to debut. I think it's on Tuesday this coming week, and that's creating so much hype in the retail sector that it has driven Bitcoin tremendously higher. My fear is that you're starting to set up some sort of sell the news event. In fact, when we saw the futures initially debut on Bitcoin, that actually was a sell the news event. And I do wonder if the institutions and the big money is kind of setting up the investor for this downdraft. And if you look at past cycles in Bitcoin, and this is what the big disagreement is the cycle we're in, has the top been at 65K, or is this just a stepping stone to a much higher cycle top? We don't know that as a technical trader until we take out 65,000. So that's really what I'm watching, and we are close now. I mean, we probably will know in the next week. It's interesting, it's going to coincide with the Bitcoin ETF.
I do want to follow up on the technicals in just a minute, but let's talk about this ETF and this hype. I don't understand this hype. Help me out. If you want to buy Bitcoin, you already can buy Bitcoin. So who is this going to affect, really? I mean, the ETF, we're going to see obviously an inflow of capital, but where is that inflow coming from or going to come from?
Well, the hope is that it's more from the retail investor, not necessarily the young investors that are already on Coinbase and stuff, but I'm thinking more like, you have a 60-year-olds who would never normally open up a Coinbase account or a Kraken account. The hope is that they're going to say, okay, it's now an ETF, I can now invest in Bitcoin.
Okay, but let's walk through the practicality of this hype. So if you're a 60-year-old, 65-year-old retiree, and you haven't invested in Bitcoin already, you're saying this ETF is going to make the entire difference? That's the tipping point for people who are skeptical about buying Bitcoin? Does that really make sense to you?
It doesn't make sense to me, but that is what the narrative is. And you have to be careful with narratives. And I want people to understand this. When you had all the kind of the Reddit crowd, the Wall Street Bets crowds, initially that was based off the small investor. I do worry that the institutions and hedge funds have gotten involved and have spun narratives to try to get the price to go up. And I do worry that that's what happened. That's what has happened here over the last 3 weeks or so. That the institutions are hyping this as a change. They're getting on these boards under super secret screen names, and they're pumping this type of thing.
So would you use the word overhyped to describe this phenomenon, this ETF craze that we're seeing right now?
I would, and I would also caution investors to understand that future ETFs based on futures always go to zero over the long term. So be really careful.
What goes to zero?
So the way a futures ETF is done is that it's based on future contracts. Right? There's a contract rollover with Bitcoin, and let's just say you have a $10 price. And if the rollover future contango signals that you have higher prices on future months out. So if you have to roll over those contracts, you might sell at 10 the current month and buy at 11 for the future month, the next month. Overall, you're losing a percentage every time you roll over. Eventually, that investor is going to lose. It's just going to drive Bitcoin down, even if Bitcoin doesn't necessarily go down.
Would you buy a Bitcoin ETF?
Not based on the futures, I wouldn't. Now, listen, I'm a shorter term trader, you know that. For short-term moves, the Bitcoin ETF based on futures, absolutely you could play it, and I will play it as a trader, but I wouldn't buy it as a long-term hold in any investment account.
All right. The Bitcoin ETF, you wouldn't buy that. Would you buy the underlying, I almost called it a commodity.
Yeah.
The currency, whatever you want to call it. Would you buy Bitcoin right now, $60,000? Would you touch it at current levels?
No, and in fact, I've actually thought about shorting it up here. I haven't been short, even though I'm calling for 20,000 because I've been very nervous about Bitcoin, but I actually would consider testing a short out right underneath 65,000 or near 65,000, and then if price confirms above, I would just exit for a small loss. But the downside risk here is actually pretty impressive for me in terms of technicals as well as momentum and hype.
I'm going to go back to your previous tweet. So right now we're barely breaching 60,000. We're struggling to breach that level. But you made the case for 65,000. That's the key level for you.
Yeah.
Once it hits 65, would you change your mind? Would you say, okay, this is the critical support or resistance level rather that has already been breached. Now it looks like bullish momentum is here. I should start getting long. Would you make that argument?
So the way a trader would trade this is if it breaches 65,000, it no longer can be compared to past cycles, and you have to assume there is further upside. As a trader, I would never chase something that's gone straight from 40 to 65,000. What I would do though is then instead of waiting for it to go to 18 to 20, I would buy on pullbacks at that point. So let's say it breaches 65 and confirms. Let's say it pulls back to 50 or 40, then I buy instead of waiting for 18 to 20. Absolutely.
I'm impressed by how disciplined you are. Maybe 60 to 65K is not that big of a difference. One might just say, well, why don't you just carry that assumption over to current levels?
Well, so the 65,000 level is really the big kahuna, right? I mean, that's the previous cycle, that's the cycle high from April. That's what means in a technical trading perspective, that's everything. If it can't breach that, then you still have lower highs in the chart.
Okay. All right, let's talk about one more thing on the Bitcoin futures. So you're suggesting that the retail investors are going to be affected more than the institutional investors by the ETFs. Is it going to be easier for a retail investor to purchase a Bitcoin ETF versus starting a wallet and accumulating Bitcoins using just traditional methods?
I do think so, just because it's less scary. So you still have a lot of investors out there that are very skeptical on opening a crypto account. We always hear about people getting, their funds stolen from cryptocurrency accounts. If you can now purchase it in your investment portfolio, I think that gives a lot of people that were hesitant the reason or an incentive to buy Bitcoin, the Bitcoin ETF.
And transaction fees, would there be a difference between transaction fees in the Bitcoin ETFs versus just regular Bitcoin?
Well, I assume, so I'm not sure what they'll charge in terms of the ETF fees, but I would assume that you would pay basically your fee on a stock trade, your commission. So, you go to Coinbase, you can pay like hundreds of dollars for a buy and a sell in terms of a commission. You might only pay $5 or even free to some people for the ETF, so that'll be interesting too.
Okay. Let's move on to your presentation at this conference that you'll be making later in the day. The theme is the demise of the Federal Reserve. Right. Pretty strong words. What do you mean by that?
It is. It's something that the media hasn't caught on to yet, but it is the chain reaction of what is going on right now will lead to this. And basically, I'll be talking about how, the debt that the government is taking on, coupled with the Federal Reserve's balance sheet that keeps ballooning, coupled with interest rates that they just want to keep lower, will eventually create a situation, a collapse in the system, where you will no longer see the Fed in its current form. It'll be kind of abolished, if you will. And that's going to happen strictly because the people will demand it. And they're going to go over it. It relates to cryptocurrency because eventually you're going to see a switch over to this kind of blockchain, crypto, digital currencies that will eventually be the future.
Okay, so you've outlined your thesis. Walk us through the mechanics of how this abolishment, this transition will happen, and what new form the Federal Reserve can take.
Yeah, so the chain of events started actually in 1977 with the dual mandate. So as soon as the Fed got put in the position of having to monitor unemployment plus inflation, that was the beginning of the end for the Federal Reserve. The reason it was is because basically, if you want to keep unemployment low at all times, which is what the Fed wants to do, you have to constantly stimulate the economy, right? By printing money and keeping interest rates low. Well, you can't be the parent that spoils the child and then also be the one that's hard-nosed and says, well, we're going to raise interest rates because inflation's getting out of control. You can't do that. And that was the beginning of the chain reaction that I'll talk about in the presentation. After the collapse, you'll see a new body come up that'll be in charge of the digital currency, whatever it may be, and eventually you'll see this digital currency probably being used all over the world, even as the reserve currency.
I did notice that during recessions, you're right, I did notice that during a recessionary period, the dual mandates seem to contradict each other. If the Federal Reserve wants to lower the unemployment rate, they have to keep monetary policy dovish, which in itself is inflationary. So if you've already got inflation above their 2% target, which is currently what's happening right now, they can't keep stimulating the economy to bring unemployment down because they're going to be counteracting their own inflationary mandate. What options do they have now?
Oh man, I mean, taking away the dual mandate. I mean, so I've always been a big believer.
Which, by the way, is unique to only a few central banks. I believe the Federal Reserve being one of them. The ECB only has one mandate, I think.
Right. Yeah, that's very, very true. But I think the bottom line is that you'll see something emerge that'll be a body that monitors the digital currency, but it'll be strict in terms of its expansion, right? And I also think that the people will demand that the government eventually has a balanced budget and that can't just run endless debt up. And this crazy, monetary theory, as they call it, it's just this concept that the government is now run by, that you can just print unlimited amounts because there's no repercussions, and that is absolutely not the case. I mean, even someone who runs their own household can tell you that eventually that check is going to run out.
So to your point that the Federal Reserve is going to be abolished, I'm just making the argument that would be a difficult thing to do because there are certain powerful actors within the government who probably wouldn't want the Federal Reserve or any monetary body to just disappear, at least not in its current form.
Yes, but what I'm actually calling for is a total collapse of the monetary system, actually. Wow, okay. So it's not, I mean, there will have to be a reset, and I do think that what we're going to go through as a country, as a world, is something that's going to equal, if not be worse than 1929 and the 30s of the Great Depression. It is going to be cataclysmic, but from its dust, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies will rise and be the future of society.
What's going to be the trigger for this collapse?
Oh man, I mean, I think the triggers have already been put in place with just the printing of endless money. I mean, think about how everyone's now saying the U.S. could just, how do we pay off, almost 30 trillion in debt? Print more money. Print more money, keep interest rates low. We know that every time there's a crisis in the world, whether it's COVID, whether it's a recession, what does the Fed do? Pumps more money, more QE. I mean, think about after 2009, the Fed came in with quantitative easing. You thought that was going to end after a few years. It didn't. And now we have COVID, and it's even more. And now the Fed's talking about it again. Watch, you'll see some sort of new crisis emerge, and the Fed will cut back on the QE a little bit and then re-up it as soon as the markets start to throw a hissy fit.
But why would that cause the monetary system to collapse?
Well, because eventually you have so many dollars out there that you're going to eventually have yields on the bonds spike higher regardless of the Fed, and you're going to have some sort of system that just is doomed to collapse. And it's hard to denote the exact chain reaction or specifics, but you can just see the writing on the wall at this point. It is not a pretty situation.
So what is this collapsed monetary system going to look like in its final form?
I think the dollar is going to eventually collapse. I think a lot of the main currencies of the world will decline. I think inflation is going to not go down back to 2%. You're going to see inflation run hot for at least a decade going into this. And eventually you're going to have the people just rising up, not necessarily in a violent way, but just demanding some sort of change, that you can't just constantly print money, that you can't just run up debt endlessly, because eventually that just eats away at our own buying power.
Just in the dollar collapsing, you're right. If inflation does go up dramatically, where even if it maintains its current pace, the dollar will lose value vis-a-vis domestic goods. But what about the dollar losing value or perhaps gaining value vis-a-vis other currencies? Do you think other currencies would depreciate at the same pace as the dollar, or perhaps depreciate even faster?
I think about the same pace, yeah. And the thing is, if you look at central banks around the world, whether it's Japan or even Europe or other central banks, they're doing the same thing. They're taking their cues from the Federal Reserve and pumping equal amounts of money into their system. And so you're going to have this situation where actually cryptocurrency is a huge winner here, longer term, as well as, in my opinion, gold and other commodities.
Okay, so what's going to happen after this collapse? The dust settles, we have this Mad Max scenario in the monetary system. What does Bitcoin look like? What does gold look like?
Gold is easily north of 5,000 at that point, and crypto, you'll see Bitcoin well north of 500,000.
Okay, so given this scenario that you're projecting to happen sometime in the future, how are you positioned right now in your portfolio?
I'm a very shorter term trader, so right now I am short equity markets, slowly inching in a little bit more on the short side. I'm long some China names right now because I think they've been beaten down. I don't have much in crypto because I'm looking more to short it right now, looking for the pullback. But once it pulls back, I am absolutely a big buyer for the longer term.
Okay, and are you not? I mean, look, you've been bearish on the stock markets for a while. We've had a correction, a pullback in September. It seems to have stabilized. So what's happening right now with the stock markets?
So right, we've seen a lower high and a lower low on the technical charts. That means a change in trend has occurred. So every bounce now is a shorting opportunity until we make higher highs again. So what I'm doing is every dip, I cover some of my shorts. When the market bounces, I re-short like I started to do this past Friday. And then I'm looking for lower lows on the stock market, easily 10 to 20% downside.
All right. Final question. Now you are at the first ever conference that you and I have attended in Dubai. What is your first impression of the Future Blockchain Summit?
This is awesome. I mean, it is just, if everyone watching this could see how amazing this setup is, they would be blown away, and absolutely a great job by those that put this together.
Was there anything about the sentiment of the attendees or the organizers that has surprised you?
Not so much. I mean, I think everyone here is interested in the digital currency side and blockchain and cryptocurrency. And I think these are the people that understand what the ultimate future holds.
Yeah, it's interesting how right next door, adjacent to this conference hall, is a bunch of other conference halls that all have a recurrent theme of the future of technology. So you've got AI, you've got EVs, you've got autonomous vehicles. And it just seems to me that this hall, which is dedicated to blockchain, is right next to that. It implies that the organizers of this conference, or at least the people attending, visualize cryptocurrencies as sort of the future form of digital payments.
Yeah, and I think that is correct. I think it's going in that way, and I think it makes perfect sense that this is right near all these futuristic technologies. It makes total sense.
Well, Gareth, I'm very happy to see you in person, and
so awesome.
Yeah, we'll do this again. All right, thank you for watching Kitco News. We'll have more for you from Dubai. Stay tuned.
Kitco News special coverage of the Future Blockchain Summit is brought to you by Cook Finance, a revolution in DeFi asset management.